All right, there I am. I am back again, YouTube, and I'm getting low on oil. Or not low on oil, I need to change my engine oil. But I'm just now headed out from school, headed back home. But this morning, we discussed, or I monologued, we didn't really discuss anything, but we talked about gun control, and I ended up on a note saying we had to balance freedom and safety. And I want to talk about that a little bit on this drive home today. The idea of freedom versus safety. Now, there's a huge issue, and of course there you see Cadbury again. The huge issue when it comes to freedom and safety is essentially this: how much can we trust people to be adults? And it really does come down to that. How much can we trust people to do the right thing, to be responsible, and to handle issues in the proper way? We've all seen movies where we have these robots that basically try to control humanity and take away all their freedoms in order to protect humanity. That is a very extreme case. That is a very extreme case. But if you allow me the use of the slippery slope fallacy here, that's exactly what we see going on right now. All right, so let's take airport security as an example. Used to, and I watched a show the other day, the Goldbergs, hilarious show. I recommend it. It's about this family in the 80s, and this guy was trying to get to an airplane to stop this girl. And he ran through security, and they're like, hold on. And he went through the metal detector, and it just beeped, and he pulled out a pocket knife and said, it's just a pocket knife. And they were like, okay, you're good to go. And let him go through. And I found that humorous. Today, we're not allowed so many things on airplanes or through airport security. We're not allowed liquids over a certain amount, and I forget what the ounce is. I want to say 2 ounces, maybe 4, something like that. We're not allowed liquids over a certain amount. We are not allowed sharp objects of really any kind. In fact, I've seen people, personally, now this is not hearsay, I've seen people not be able to take toenail clippers onto the plane because it had that little file that extends, and they were afraid it was going to be used as a weapon. I personally had some issues with airport security whenever I was headed back to Afghanistan. I had a seatbelt cutter. Now, if you don't know what that is, it looks like a letter opener. It's got a long hook, and there's a blade inside. And what that is for, now I called it a seatbelt cutter. You can kind of guess what that's for. You grab it here, and you cut your seatbelt with it, in case you're trapped inside a vehicle. Well, I had left this in my shaving kit completely on accident, and I needed to take it back to Afghanistan with me. And again, I left it in my shaving kit rather than my carry-on on accident. So I get to airport security, and they take a look at it, and they said, well, this was hilarious. They said, and this will definitely boost your faith in the TSA. They said, what is this? I said, it's a seatbelt cutter. I kid you not. The very next question from this guy's mouth was, what do you use it for? And I said, well, you cut seatbelts with it in case you get trapped in a vehicle. Now, keep in mind, I was dressed in my OCPUs, and so not the digital camo, but the stuff they were switching over to at the time. This was back in 2000, I guess early 2012 or late 2011, something like that. And so yeah, so he's like, well, I'm going to need to call my supervisor. He calls the supervisor over, and he takes a look at it, and he says, so what is this? And I said, it's a seatbelt cutter. The supervisor, again, I kid you not, said, what do you use it for? And so I went through it again, and they took a look at it, and they decided that I would not be able to hijack the plane with it, and so they allowed it on my, to go. And part of that was probably because I was dressed in my uniform, and they knew that I was in the military and I was headed back to the combat zone. So I mean, I'm sure that helped. But so these small things we're not allowed to have anymore. And so what we have done is we have sacrificed a lot of freedom. Now I'm gonna come back to that. There's a counterpoint to that, and I'm gonna come back to that here in a second. So don't worry, you out there who are shouting at me right now. But what we have done is we have sacrificed the freedom to take what we want and some conveniences with us in order to be safe in airplane travel. Now, let's go on to the counterpoint. First of all, one of the big counterpoints is, well, traveling by plane is not a right. And I would concede that point. But traveling by plane, as opposed to traveling by car and by boat, is so much easier, simpler, and a lot more convenient. All right, so have we sacrificed a right? No. Have we sacrificed a freedom? Yes. So that brings us back to the idea of how much freedom are we willing to give up in order to remain safe? Because if you think about it, the most safety you're going to find is in a complete and total lack of freedom. If you have no freedom to choose anything, you're going to be the most safe. And so that's kind of what it comes down to, is where do we draw the line? Now, on this issue, liberals and conservatives are divided when it comes to guns. Conservatives are saying we draw the line where guns are available to us, we can keep our guns. Liberals draw the line on the other side and say we want to go more towards the safety, where the conservatives are saying we want to lean more towards freedom. Now, again, I talked about my viewpoint on liberals earlier because I'm very conservative, and where I said I don't think that liberals have this agenda where they're trying to destroy the country, like so many people who are conservative believe. And, well, liberals believe that of conservatives, too. I believe that they are doing what they think is right. I just happen to disagree with what they think is right. So I bear no ill will to people who disagree with me, but obviously I do think I'm right and they're wrong. That's human nature. Everybody thinks that they are right and everyone else is wrong. On an issue like this, you can't have it both ways. So we have to decide again, what freedoms are we willing to sacrifice for the sake of safety, or what guaranteed safety are we willing to sacrifice for freedoms? And that's where it becomes really convoluted, really emotional, and we start looking at other things. Okay, let's say, and here's the thing. Let's say we banned, again, assault rifles. Say we banned them completely. Nobody could own them. Well, one of the popular arguments that conservatives use is, well, we banned alcohol during the Prohibition. And we still had moonshine and alcohol runners and all that. Drugs are currently banned and against the law. Yet, what an epidemic do we have? In fact, I saw this meme posted by someone who was somewhat liberal that said, I would like to thank drugs for winning the war on drugs. I mean, it was supposed to be humorous, but that paints a nice picture and illustrates my point. If we do ban assault rifles, it's not going to get rid of the problem. I'm not going to go so far as to say only, one of the arguments is you're going to be taking guns out of law-abiding citizens' hands and placing them only in the hands of lawbreakers. While I do agree with that, that's not the argument I'm going to use here. That's not the argument I'm using here. What I am saying is that it won't stop the problem. The problem is people have gotten their hands on these things and they're using them to shoot up places. The guns will still be available. They will still be able to be gotten. So all banning these guns is going to do is give people a warm and fuzzy feeling until they realize it didn't solve anything. All right, so because let's look at this way. This latest shooter, he had guns and weapons that he should not have had, that he somehow obtained illegally, not legally. Now, if someone wants to fact check that and I'm wrong, that's the way I understand it. If someone wants to fact check that and I'm wrong, go ahead, put it in the comments below. But if we discount him, and let's say I am wrong and we discount him, there are other shooters who all obtained their weapons illegally. And so a ban on those weapons would not have solved anything. So my argument is not you're only going to be taking the weapons out of the hands of law-abiding citizens. My argument is you're not taking them out of the hands of people who would get them illegally anyway. That's the whole point of these people who break the law. They don't care if it's legal or if it's illegal. If the idea that a gun being illegal would stop someone who is willing to kill people with a gun, in my mind, is ludicrous. If someone wants to go out and kill people, they're going to find a way. They're going to either skirt the law and get a gun, or they're going to use another means. And in this day and age, with Google search and the ease of access to everything, your average high schooler of average intelligence could easily build a bomb capable of taking out several hundred square feet. And with that, dozens of students. It's not hard. And so what I'm saying is that the banning of these assault weapons is a knee-jerk reaction that will not solve a problem. So instead of banning them, like so many people are calling for, because it won't solve the problem, look for something that will solve the problem. Again, I talked earlier about how we are not currently enforcing the laws that are in place. We are currently not adequately enforcing people on the no-buy list. Now, it has been suggested to me and to others that we have a 30-day wait on buying some weapons. And my knee-jerk reaction is to say no to that. But then I examined that, and I said that is something I am willing to compromise on, personally. I am willing to compromise and say, okay, a 30-day wait, and we will, to be able to buy a weapon of some kind. I am perfectly fine with that. I wasn't at first, but after thinking about it, it's not a bad measure. It doesn't really hurt anyone, and it provides this illusion of safety. Now, one of the issues is that not all police stations are reporting to the FBI background check. I read this about a year ago, where they don't have complete participation in the FBI background check reporting system. So it's very possible that I get arrested for domestic abuse. I move to another state. I go in to buy a gun, and I am not on the watch list of people unable to buy a gun. That is a huge oversight. That is a huge, huge oversight. We need this cooperation. We need to have this conversation between the people who recognize that someone is not able to own a weapon and the people who decide whether or not to sell them this weapon. And there's a disconnect there. There really is. And if we had this participation, then things would be so much safer. If we had, so here's what I'm saying. We need to have all police stations reporting to this FBI database. All county police stations, all state police stations, everything. Everybody should be reporting. And that needs to be, that needs to be regulated to where that happens. Now, what also we need are mental institutions to be reporting. We need, it kills me to say this because I'm so conservative, but what we need is for people to be assessed anytime they go to a mental institution. And if their assessment reads certain things, they should be placed on the do not buy list. Now, that is a very, very slippery slope, and there needs to be checks and balances. Because not every doctor or nurse is going to be able to be completely objective. That's just human nature. If we have a doctor who is very anti-gun, then they are going to be reporting people because they're going to lean towards, this person shouldn't have a weapon. On the other hand, if a person is very pro-gun, they would not be reporting people because they don't want to give in to that agenda. So we need to have some checks and balances. And one of those being that the decision can be overturned with an appeal. A board of review, a bipartisan review board of doctors. Now here's the issue with that. And see, everything comes with issues. Everything comes with issues. Every proposed solution will come with issues. What we're doing then is we're still creating more government by creating this review board. And so no solution is going to be perfect. There really isn't. But I think I've hit upon something that will definitely help, and that both sides can look at and come to a consensus on. You don't have to ban the weapons, again, because that's not going to solve anything. It really is not going to solve anything. But yet, we do have an issue that needs to be addressed. And I think I honestly think I've gotten to the heart of the issue, and that is reporting and keeping the weapons out of the hands of people who should not have them. All right, so let's say this latest shooting, he was known to have issues, mental issues, and things like that. I think that the principal, and I don't know the entire story, honestly, I don't know his history completely, but I think the principal should have had the power to say, okay, this person needs to be watched. Now, I just had a great idea. I just had an amazing idea. If a mental health professional or some type of authority like that puts them on this watch list, again, I think it should be able to be overturned by an appeal. But instead of putting them on a do not buy list, I think they should be put on a list that says can buy with doctor's approval. They go in to get their weapon, they find out that they are on this list, and then they go to a doctor, a therapist, a mental health counselor, somebody, they spend some time with them, and this person then clears them, yes or no, to get the weapon. And their counseling sessions would focus on such things as why do they want the weapon? What would they do with the weapon? Are they mentally stable enough not to go shoot up somebody? Are they mentally stable enough not to harm themselves? And things like that. And so I think that would be a nice compromise. And so I think that would be great. Now, that should not be the default for everybody. You shouldn't have to walk in with a yes, here I'm allowed, because then that takes the freedom away from the person and from the general populace, and it gives it over to somebody else. But I think there should be a watch list like that. So basically 2 levels of a list. One that is do not buy, or do not sell, I guess technically. Do not sell this person a weapon. And 2, the second level is this person has had issues, but with a doctor's notice or note, they can buy a weapon. And so I think I would be all in favor for that. Again, because when we look at the issue, there are some proposed solutions that are not solutions. Okay, we've got the banning of the weapons. That's not going to solve a thing. It will not solve a single thing. I mean, look at how many shootings are in Chicago. And Chicago has some of the strictest gun laws in the United States. And yet, people still get shot. So we know it's not that's not a solution. Banning the guns is not a solution. It's a feel-good measure to make people have this illusion of safety. Now, on the other hand, people are saying maybe we should arm teachers. While on the surface that seems like an okay idea, that's really not a solution. It's not a solution, and here's why. Because the teachers will be able to stop the shooter, assuming that they're able to stop the shooter, but not until damage has already been done. We want prevention, not reaction. And so arming the teachers is, again, it's not a solution either. So we've got 2 sides presenting solutions that are not solutions. What we really need is to come together and say what will work. And I think I have come across a solution that will benefit and that will help everybody out. And again, that is to come together and say we need full reporting to the FBI system. We need everybody to report. And we need doctors to also report. If someone is taken into a mental health institution against their own will, that's supposed to put them on the do not sell list that needs to be reported. If someone has a domestic abuse, that is supposed to be reported and put them on the do not buy list. And, so on. There's so many things. And again, I think we should have that if someone is having mental issues, they should have that mark put on their record. And, I would even say so much as the mark goes away after 2 years, 3 years, if they have no more issues. So they don't have to worry about that. But if they try to go in before that mark's gone, then they have to bring a doctor's note saying, yes, they can buy a weapon. So if they go in with issues, they go in with depression, they go in, with anything that could be deemed a danger to themselves or others, they are marked that they need to be able to, they have to have a doctor's notice. And after, say 3 years seems like a good number. If after 3 years they've not been seen for any of this, then they're good to go. But each time they visit, it just, increases that, and 3 years from their last visit. Now, here's the thing. I'm not just talking out of my butt here, because I would be placed on that list. I would. With the issues that I have, I would personally have to go in and get a doctor's notice to buy a weapon. Would I like to have to do that? No, I would not like to have to do that. But I personally am willing to go through that so that other people, because I'm not homicidal, I'm not suicidal, I deal with some issues that could lead to that kind of thing, but I think I've got it under the control where, I would never be homicidal, never. But I've got my issues under a type of control where I would never become suicidal, I don't think. And so I would be placed on that list. But that is something I would be willing to go through so that people who are homicidal, who are suicidal, would be kept from getting weapons. That is my line. I am willing to give up that freedom of mine right now to be able to go in and buy a weapon right now so that other people who are homicidal or suicidal cannot get them. And so I'm not just blowing smoke here. I think this is it would be a very good measure. And in all honesty, I may have to. I don't think anything like that is being submitted right now, and I might have to look into how to start something like that. How to start submitting some legislation, because I think that would be a good measure towards getting everybody what they want. Again, I think the solutions being proposed right now are not solutions, and it is a subject that has been on my mind, especially every time something like this happens. People, they have knee-jerk reactions, and they immediately want to go too far with something that's going to make them feel good, and it's not a solution. So when we talk about gun control, we need to not talk about banning guns, because again, that's not going to help. We need to talk about controlling who is able to purchase these weapons in a right way. Not talk about a blanket, broad brush, get rid of them all, because that won't work. And so we need to have some kind of discourse. Anyway, I have been going for nearly a half an hour here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this short, even though I'm not quite home because of traffic. And if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, please let me know in the comments below. I think I've got a good solution, but maybe you disagree. And if you do, you're entitled to that opinion. Please let me know. Please let me know, and we can have some polite discourse about this. And we can talk facts. And we can talk arguments that make sense. It's not my intent to attack anyone. My intent is to look at what we know and make the best and most informed decision that we possibly can. And not just kowtow to knee-jerk reactions, but really talk about it. Get to the heart of the issue and solve the problem. So anyway, if you've liked what you've seen, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, I'm Sapper Woody, and it's been fun.